Greetings, fellow YouTubers. Um, this is an update for the Coral Castle. I had mentioned that I had solved many of the clues to the Coral Castle, but I have only posted some of the information comments section of some of my movies. So another YouTuber wanted to know what exactly I solved. So I want to explain, as best I can, some of the clues that I had. Now, the first clue is informative. There's a guy named Jeremy Stride on YouTube, and he had solved most of the mathematical problems of the Coral Castle, prime numbers and quadruplet prime numbers. So that reflects directly towards the Freemasons, and he had proved that very good, and so that is now a fact. We also know that Edley Scalman was father or grandfather was a Freemason, so the information was given to him as far as the precession of the equinox is concerned. Now, specifically, that is what I have solved. And there's some clues that he had left. The Valentine was one. The three moons, a Saturn. Basically, his whole Coral Castle is a museum. And everything that he did was a clue. What I believe is this. Saint Valentine was a whistleblower. In other words, nobody really knew who he was, and he was probably ridiculed. So therefore, he had probably been a witness, just like you and I. So the way I figured it is that Saint Valentine, the person himself, must have had information about the crossing of Planet X or Nibiru. So this goes back January 29th, and at this point I was watching the sun intently and taking pictures. What does Edley Scalman have to offer us as clues? Well, one of the clues was ring bell twice, drop 10 cents below. You didn't ring it twice, he wouldn't answer. The understanding of this is ringing the bell means an earthquake. Back in the day, NASA had made some quotes about ringing the bell of the moon, and it rang for 3 hours. So what they did was they hit it with something, and it rang, almost like a hollow object. So in part, that's where the term had come from, or in part, that's how we understand what they're talking about as far as the earthquakes are concerned. January 29th, we had the wolf moon. Now, this was one of the sacred moons of the Mayan calendar, coinciding with the solar eclipse. We had the planetary alignment, and we had Saturn come into view, and all these things coincide with what's going on. Now, Edley Scalman had mentioned his Sweet 16. Sweet 16 happened to be the precession of the equinox. More specifically, it was the equinox, where there was 12 hours of daylight and 12 hours of nighttime. So that was his Sweet 16. Now remember, he had said, how would he feel, or how would it be if he didn't leave his Agnes a Valentine? Okay, so that's where the Valentine had come from. And remember also that Valentine was also a world record Valentine for many years. I think it weighs over 5 tons. So the Valentine is important. when it comes to Agnes. Now, the way I figure Agnes was an acronym or a synonym or whatever you want to call it, where it sounds the same but isn't, you know. So Agnes could mean many things. It could mean Armageddon. It could be a nickname for Nibiru. Now, this is what I suspect. It was a nickname for his fascination. It was Nibiru, based on, all the work that he did in the Coral Castle. Now, back in the day, his girlfriend, Agnes, had left him at the altar. We know that he was building the Coral Castle. And what happened, in my opinion, is he made a mistake in his calculation. And that's why Agnes left him at the altar. Now, this was back in 1912, I believe. So we're about 100 years off, while he was in his calculation. And so what he had to do was move the Coral Castle 10 miles, where the magnetic field had moved. So again, we're talking about a magnetic field of the Earth, and he knew that it also can move. Okay, so he moved the Coral Castle because of that. And not only because of that, but, because those magnetic field lines also probably gave him the ability to harness some of the natural magnetic field to raise up some of the stones that he had done, that he had cut. So on Valentine's Day, he left Agnes a card because he knew he wouldn't be there for it. And so Agnes was his pet name for Nibiru. Okay, we could pretty much say for certain that that's what he was talking about, especially when we consider the Mayan calendar and the significance of the February 16th. And now, I had come out with a few movies in February, and I was pretty scared. So I was off the coastline on the 16th, and there was no earthquake, but I was expecting one. On the 17th, we had the earthquake that I was expecting, and that was on the 17th. It was, I believe, a 6.9 to a 7.2 in Japan. Now, the first quake coincided with the actual flip, the pole flip in the sun, and the pole flipped in the sun January 29th, and it was confirmed by me on February 6th. So the actual pole flip did occur between those days.